Welcome to
our channel.
I think there is a question that almost everyone asks at some point in life.
What question?
What makes life meaningful?
That's a big question.
It really is.
And interestingly, people have different answers.
Some people say success.
Some people say happiness.
Some people say money.
Some people say family.
Some people say freedom.
Exactly.
So why is this question so difficult?
Because meaning is very personal.
Meaning?
What gives one person's life meaning may not give another person's life meaning.
That's true.
For one person, building a successful career may feel meaningful.
For another person, raising a family may be the most meaningful thing.
Someone else may find meaning through helping others.
Or learning.
Or creating something.
So there is no single answer.
Right.
But I think many people still search for one.
Yeah.
They think.
That happens a lot.
For example,
someone thinks.
Then they earn more money.
But they still feel something is missing.
Or someone thinks.
They get the promotion.
But the feeling doesn't last.
Exactly.
So maybe achievement and meaning are not the same thing.
That's an important difference.
Why?
Because achievements are external.
External.
Things we can see.
Money.
Titles.
Awards.
Recognition.
But meaning is often internal.
How we feel about what we are doing.
Why we are doing it.
What value it has for us.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think modern society often focuses heavily on achievement.
Definitely.
From a young age, people are encouraged to compete.
Get better grades.
Enter better schools.
Find better jobs.
Earn more.
Become more successful.
These goals are not necessarily bad.
Right.
But if they become the only measure of a good life,
people may lose connection with what really matters to them.
That's a powerful idea.
Yeah.
Because someone can look successful from the outside,
but feel empty inside.
Why does that happen?
Maybe because they are following a path they never truly chose.
They are living according to other people's expectations.
Exactly.
That's something many people experience.
Yeah.
They ask.
Or because I think I should want it.
That's a difficult question.
It is.
Because we are influenced by many things.
Family.
Culture.
Society.
Friends.
Social media.
Everyone has ideas about what a successful life should look like.
Exactly.
But maybe a meaningful life is not about copying someone else's definition.
It's about discovering your own.
I like that.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing is that meaning is often connected to challenges.
That's true.
People usually think a good life means an easy life.
But that's not always the case.
Why?
Because difficulties can give us a sense of growth.
Growth.
Yeah.
For example,
learning a difficult skill.
It can be frustrating.
But improving feels meaningful.
Building something important.
It takes effort.
Helping someone.
It may require sacrifice.
So meaning often comes from effort.
Exactly.
That's interesting because people often try to avoid difficulties.
Of course.
But sometimes difficulties are part of what makes something valuable.
Right.
A relationship that requires patience.
A goal that requires discipline.
A dream that requires courage.
Those things become meaningful because they matter enough to work for.
That's a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
So maybe meaning is not something we simply find.
Maybe it's something we create.
Create?
Yes.
Explain.
Life does not automatically come with a clear purpose.
We have to build one.
Through our choices.
Our relationships.
Our actions.
The things we care about.
Exactly.
That changes the way we think about life.
It does.
Because instead of asking,
maybe ask.
I really like that question.
Me too.
Because it gives people responsibility.
But also freedom.
Freedom?
Yes.
Because if meaning is created, then we have the ability to shape it.
Exactly.
Our lives may not be perfect.
We may face problems.
We may experience uncertainty.
But we can still choose what matters to us.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
Maybe a meaningful life is not a life without problems.
Maybe it is a life where problems are connected to something important.
That's a very deep idea.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why different people can live completely different lives and still feel fulfilled.
Because meaning is personal.
not universal.
Exactly.
In the first part, we talked about what makes life meaningful.
Yeah.
And we mentioned something interesting.
What's that?
Many people think a good life is simply a happy life.
That's a very common idea.
But are happiness and meaning the same thing?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because happiness and meaning come from different places.
That's interesting.
Happiness is often connected to how we feel in the moment.
For example,
Having a good meal,
spending time with friends,
watching a movie you enjoy.
taking a relaxing vacation.
Those things can make us happy.
But meaning is different.
Yeah.
How?
Meaning is more connected to purpose.
Purpose.
Having something that feels important.
Something bigger than just the moment.
Exactly.
So happiness is about feeling good.
And meaning is about feeling that something matters.
That's a very useful difference.
Yeah.
Can you give an example?
Sure.
Okay.
Imagine someone spends the weekend relaxing at home.
All right.
They watch movies, eat good food, and have a comfortable time.
That sounds enjoyable.
It is.
They feel happy.
Right.
But imagine someone spends the weekend helping a family member who needs support.
That might not be easy.
They may feel tired.
They may even feel stressed.
But afterward, they may feel a deeper sense of satisfaction.
Exactly.
Because they did something meaningful.
Right.
So something can be difficult but meaningful.
And something can be enjoyable, but not necessarily meaningful.
That's an important idea.
Yeah.
I think this explains something many people experience.
What?
They achieve things they wanted.
But still feel empty.
Exactly.
Because maybe they achieved happiness, but not meaning.
Interesting.
For example, someone may buy expensive things.
And enjoy them.
But after some time, the excitement disappears.
Because the pleasure is temporary.
Right.
But building a skill or helping others may create a deeper feeling.
Because it connects to something bigger.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think modern life sometimes encourages people to chase happiness constantly.
Definitely.
We see advertisements everywhere.
They often suggest,
Buy this and you will feel better.
get this and your life will improve.
So people start believing happiness comes from getting more.
More money.
More things.
More experiences.
More achievements.
But the problem is that happiness based only on external things may not last.
Because humans quickly adapt.
Exactly.
Something new feels exciting at first.
But after a while, it becomes normal.
Then we search for the next thing.
Right.
That cycle can continue forever.
Yeah.
But meaning works differently.
How?
Meaning often comes from commitment.
Commitment.
Yes.
Explain.
When you care about something deeply, you continue even when it becomes difficult.
That's true.
A musician practices for years.
Even when progress is slow.
A researcher spends years studying a problem.
Even without immediate results.
A parent spends years raising a child.
Even when it is exhausting.
These things are not always comfortable.
But they can feel meaningful.
Exactly.
Because they connect to something important.
I think this is why people need goals.
Definitely.
Not just goals
But deeper goals.
like,
I want to become a better person.
I want to help people.
I want to build meaningful relationships.
Those goals give direction.
Exactly.
Without direction, people can sometimes feel lost.
Even if everything looks fine from the outside.
That's true.
Someone can have a comfortable life but still ask.
That question can be difficult.
Yeah.
Because comfort alone does not always create fulfillment.
Right.
Humans need more than avoiding problems.
We need something to move toward.
That's a great way to say it.
Yeah.
I think another difference between happiness and meaning is time.
What do you mean?
Happiness often focuses on the present moment.
Right.
Meaning often connects the past, present, and future.
Interesting.
For example, someone may study hard for many years,
The process may be difficult.
but they believe it will create a better future.
Exactly.
Or someone may work hard to build something that benefits future generations,
They may not see all the results themselves.
but they still feel their effort matters.
That's meaning.
I like that.
Yeah.
So does that mean happiness is not important?
No, not at all.
Good.
Happiness is still an important part of life.
Of course.
We need joy.
Relaxation.
fun.
pleasure,
The problem is when happiness becomes the only goal.
because some valuable things require effort and patience.
Exactly.
A meaningful life probably includes both.
I think so.
Moments of happiness,
And a sense of purpose.
enjoying today.
While building tomorrow.
That balance seems important.
Definitely.
Maybe the question is not.
Because that's impossible.
Maybe the better question is.
That's a much deeper question.
And everyone has to answer it differently.
Exactly.
Because meaning is not something we can copy from another person.
It has to come from our own values.
Our own experiences.
Our own choices.
That's what makes life personal.
And meaningful.
When we talk about a meaningful life, there is one thing that I find very interesting.
What is it?
Sometimes people achieve everything they thought they wanted.
And they still don't feel fulfilled.
Exactly.
That's a really interesting phenomenon.
Because from the outside, their life looks perfect.
They have a successful career.
A good income.
A comfortable lifestyle.
Recognition from others.
But inside, they feel something is missing.
Why do you think that happens?
I think one reason is that success and fulfillment are not always connected.
That's an important distinction.
Yeah,
Because society often teaches us that success is the final goal.
right.
We grow up hearing,
And those things are important.
of course.
But the question is,
That's a good question.
sometimes people spend years climbing a ladder.
And when they reach the top,
They realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall.
that's a powerful image.
Yeah,
Meaning they achieved something, but maybe not something that truly mattered to them.
exactly.
I think this happens because people sometimes confuse achievement with meaning.
Definitely.
Achievement asks,
Meaning asks,
those are different questions.
very different.
For example, someone may want a high-paying job.
Okay,
Maybe they work very hard and eventually get it.
they achieve their goal.
But then they realize they don't enjoy the work.
Or they have no time for the people they care about.
So the achievement itself doesn't create fulfillment.
Right,
Because the goal was disconnected from their values.
exactly.
That word keeps coming up.
Values.
Yes.
I think values are one of the most important parts of a meaningful life.
Why?
Because values help us decide what is important.
They are like a personal compass.
Exactly.
Without a compass, we may move quickly.
But we may move in the wrong direction.
That's true.
A lot of people are busy.
But being busy does not always mean being fulfilled.
Right.
Someone can have a full schedule.
And still feel empty.
Because activity and meaning are not the same.
Exactly.
I think another reason successful people sometimes feel empty is because of external validation.
That's a big topic.
What do you mean?
Some people build their lives around other people's opinions.
For example,
They want to be admired.
they want approval.
They want people to say,
There is nothing wrong with wanting recognition.
no,
Everyone likes appreciation.
of course,
But if your entire sense of worth depends on other people,
that can become a problem.
because other people's opinions constantly change.
Exactly.
Today people may praise you.
Tomorrow they may criticize you.
If your happiness depends completely on that,
You lose control over your own life.
that's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
So maybe a meaningful life requires a balance.
What kind of balance?
Being open to feedback.
But not controlled by it.
Appreciating success.
But not depending only on success.
Caring about others' opinions.
But still knowing your own values.
That's a mature way to think.
I think so.
Another interesting thing is that people often chase goals without questioning them.
That happens a lot.
They say,
But they never ask.
exactly,
Sometimes the answer is,
that's true,
or,
but maybe their real desire is different.
exactly.
For example, someone may think they want to become famous.
But maybe what they really want is to feel respected.
Someone may think they want more money.
But maybe what they really want is freedom.
Someone may think they want a bigger house.
But maybe they want a sense of security.
That's a very important point.
Sometimes we chase the symbol instead of the real need.
Can you explain that?
Sure,
Okay,
imagine someone buys expensive things because they want to feel valuable.
right,
The object gives them a temporary feeling.
but the deeper need is confidence.
Exactly.
So the thing itself was not the real goal.
It was only a way to reach a feeling.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
Maybe understanding ourselves is one of the hardest parts of life.
definitely.
Because we are influenced by so many voices.
Family,
Culture,
friends,
social media.
advertising.
Everyone is telling us what a good life should look like.
Exactly.
So finding our own definition of success takes courage.
It does.
Because sometimes your definition may be different from everyone else's.
And that's okay.
I think many people fear choosing a different path.
Because they worry others won't understand.
But a meaningful life is not about making everyone understand you.
It's about understanding yourself.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I think there is also another reason successful people feel empty.
What's that?
Sometimes they focus so much on the future that they forget the present.
That's very common.
They think,
Then they reach it.
and immediately create a new goal.
Exactly.
So life becomes a constant waiting room,
That's a good way to describe it.
always waiting for the next achievement.
Never fully experiencing the current moment.
That doesn't mean people should stop having goals.
Right.
Goals are important,
They give direction.
but we also need to appreciate the journey.
Exactly.
Because life is not only the final result.
It's everything that happens along the way.
The people we meet,
The lessons we learn.
the person we become.
That's where much of the meaning comes from.
So maybe success is not about reaching a certain place.
Maybe it is about becoming someone you respect.
I really like that.
Me too.
Because anyone can chase external achievements.
But building a meaningful life requires self-understanding
And honesty,
and reflection.
that's not always easy.
But it's worth doing.
Because at the end of the day, the most important question may not be.
Maybe it is.
That's a question worth thinking about. When people imagine a meaningful life, they usually think about positive things.
Like success, happiness, and good experiences.
Exactly.
People don't usually think about difficulties.
Right.
But interestingly, many people say that some of the hardest moments in their lives became the most meaningful.
That's a very interesting idea.
Yeah,
Why do you think difficult experiences can become meaningful?
I think because challenges often change us.
Change us?
Yes,
How?
when everything is easy, we don't always discover what we are capable of.
That's true.
But when we face difficulties, we have to learn.
We have to adapt.
We have to become stronger.
So challenges reveal parts of ourselves.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
For example, someone may never know how patient they can be until they face a difficult situation,
Or how brave they can be.
or how much they can handle.
So difficulty can teach us about ourselves.
Right.
I think this is why some people look back at difficult periods and say,
Exactly.
that's a complicated feeling.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants suffering.
Of course not.
But suffering can sometimes create growth.
Right.
It's an important distinction.
Definitely.
We are not saying people should look for problems,
No.
or that every difficult experience is automatically good.
Exactly.
Some experiences are simply painful.
And people need support and care.
But when difficulties happen,
We have the ability to find meaning in how we respond.
that's a powerful idea.
Yeah.
I think one reason challenges can feel meaningful is because they show us what matters.
What do you mean?
When everything is going well, we may not notice what is truly important.
But difficult moments can make our priorities clearer.
For example,
Imagine someone experiences a health problem.
okay,
Suddenly, they may realize how valuable their relationships are.
or how important their time is.
Exactly.
A difficult experience changes their perspective.
Right.
Sometimes we don't appreciate ordinary things until we almost lose them.
That's very human.
Yeah,
We often focus on what we don't have.
instead of noticing what we already have.
Exactly.
Challenges can sometimes bring our attention back to the present.
That's true.
Another thing is that meaningful goals usually require difficulty.
Definitely.
Think about learning a new language.
Good example.
At the beginning, it can feel frustrating.
You make mistakes.
You forget words,
You don't understand everything.
but slowly you improve.
And that progress feels meaningful.
Because you know you worked for it.
Exactly.
If everything were instantly easy.
The achievement might not feel as valuable.
That's interesting.
Humans often value things more when they require effort.
Because effort creates a connection.
Right.
You become part of the process.
Exactly.
This reminds me of something.
What?
People often say they want a perfect life.
Yeah.
But maybe a perfect life would not actually feel meaningful.
That's a fascinating idea.
Why?
Because without challenges, we may have fewer opportunities to grow.
We may have fewer chances to discover ourselves.
Exactly.
A life without difficulties might be comfortable.
But maybe not deeply satisfying.
That's a difficult thing to accept.
It is.
Because naturally, we want to avoid pain.
Of course.
Nobody wakes up and says.
Right.
But maybe the goal is not avoiding every difficulty.
Maybe it is learning how to face difficulties.
That's a healthier perspective.
Yeah.
I think another important part is the stories we tell ourselves about our experiences.
That's very important.
What do you mean?
Two people can experience a similar difficulty, but understand it differently.
For example,
One person may think.
and another person may think.
Exactly.
The event is the same.
But the meaning is different.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So meaning is not only created by what happens to us.
It is also created by how we interpret what happens.
That's a deep idea.
Definitely.
Of course, this doesn't mean we should force ourselves to find a lesson immediately.
Right.
Sometimes people need time
They need to process their emotions.
to accept what happened.
Exactly.
Growth does not always happen quickly.
That's true.
Sometimes understanding comes years later.
Yeah.
Someone may look back and realize.
Exactly.
Maybe that's why many people say
Because those moments demanded something from them.
they had to become stronger,
More patient.
more understanding.
More compassionate.
I think compassion is an important point.
Why?
Because people who experience difficulties often understand other people's struggles better.
That's true.
They become more empathetic,
They know what it feels like to struggle.
so their own pain can help them connect with others.
Exactly.
That creates another kind of meaning.
Yeah.
Not just becoming stronger for yourself.
But becoming someone who can help others.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So maybe a meaningful life is not a life where nothing goes wrong.
Maybe it is a life where even difficult experiences can become part of your story.
A story of learning
Growth.
and becoming who you are.
Exactly.
That changes the way we look at challenges.
It does.
Instead of only asking,
Maybe sometimes we can ask.
and
Those are powerful questions.
I think so too. After everything we have talked about, I think we come to the most practical question.
What question?
If a meaningful life is something we create, how do we actually create one?
That's probably the question everyone wants to answer.
Yeah,
And I think the first step is understanding what truly matters to you.
understanding yourself.
Exactly.
That sounds simple.
But it's actually very difficult.
Why?
Because many people spend a lot of time learning about the world.
But not enough time learning about themselves.
Right.
We know what other people are doing.
We know what society values.
We know what is considered successful.
But we don't always ask.
That question can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the answer is different from what we expected.
Exactly.
For example, someone may spend years chasing a certain career,
Then they realize what they really wanted was more freedom.
or more time with family,
Or more creativity.
or a sense of helping others.
Right.
So finding meaning requires honesty.
Definitely.
Honesty about what makes you feel alive.
What gives you energy?
What kind of person you want to become.
Exactly.
I think another important part of a meaningful life is relationships.
I agree.
We talked before about loneliness
Yeah.
and how people need deep connections.
Because relationships give life meaning.
Why are relationships so important?
Because many of our most meaningful experiences happen with other people.
Think about it.
Important memories.
Shared experiences,
Moments of support.
moments of love.
Exactly.
Even achievements often feel more meaningful when we can share them.
Right.
A success feels different when someone you care about celebrates with you.
Definitely.
And difficult moments feel easier when someone stands beside you.
Exactly.
So a meaningful life is not only about personal achievement.
It is also about connection.
That's important.
Yeah,
Another thing I think matters is creating something.
creating,
Yes,
like art.
not only art.
Okay,
Creating can mean many things.
building a business,
Raising children,
teaching someone,
writing something,
solving a problem.
improving a community.
Exactly,
Humans have a natural desire to contribute something,
to leave something behind.
to feel that their existence has an impact.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be something famous.
that's an important point.
Many people think,
But that's not true,
why?
because small actions can have deep meaning.
For example,
A teacher who changes one student's life,
a friend who supports someone during a difficult time,
a parent who creates a loving environment.
a person who helps a stranger.
Exactly,
Meaning is not measured only by size.
it is measured by importance.
I like that.
Yeah,
Another thing is that a meaningful life requires attention.
attention,
Yes,
explain.
sometimes we are physically present, but mentally somewhere else.
That's true.
We are always thinking about the future,
Or worrying about the past.
and we forget to experience the present.
Right,
But many meaningful moments are actually small moments.
like what?
A conversation with someone you love,
A quiet morning,
learning something new.
enjoying a simple experience.
Those moments may seem ordinary.
But they create the feeling that life is valuable.
Exactly.
People often wait for big moments,
A big achievement,
a big change.
a big success.
But life is mostly made of small moments.
That's very true.
And if we cannot appreciate small moments, even big achievements may not satisfy us.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah,
I also think a meaningful life requires accepting uncertainty.
definitely.
Because many people want a perfect plan.
They want to know exactly what will happen.
But life doesn't work that way.
No,
People change.
circumstances change.
The world changes.
Exactly.
So meaning cannot come from controlling everything.
It has to come from how we respond.
That connects to what we discussed earlier.
Yeah,
Difficulties, choices, and change.
all of these are part of life.
A meaningful life is not created by avoiding uncertainty.
It is created by moving through uncertainty with purpose.
That's a beautiful idea.
Thanks.
I think there is one final question.
What is it?
When people look back at their lives, what do you think they will remember?
Interesting question.
Will they remember how many hours they worked?
Probably not.
How many things they bought?
Probably not.
How many people they impressed?
Maybe not.
So what will they remember?
I think they will remember moments that had meaning.
Relationships,
Experiences.
challenges they overcame,
People they helped.
the person they became.
Exactly.
Maybe that is what makes life meaningful.
Not having a perfect life,
Not achieving everything,
but living in a way that feels true to yourself.
and creating something valuable with the time you have.
Exactly.
So if someone asks,
There may not be one simple answer.
but maybe it begins with 3 questions.
What questions?
What do I value?
Who do I want to share my life with?
And what can I contribute to the world?
Those are powerful questions.
I think so too.
Because meaning is not something we find at the end of life.
It is something we create every day.
Through our choices,
Our relationships,
our actions.
and the way we see the world.
Exactly.
Thank you for listening to today's episode.
We hope this conversation gave you something to think about.
Maybe after listening, you can take a moment and ask yourself,
Not what other people expect,
not what society tells you,
but what truly matters to you.
because everyone's answer will be different.
And that is what makes every person's journey unique.
See you next time.
See you.